Why hello, welcome to our travel series, Fuji lenses. Not all of them, only the ones I have. In this episode, we're gonna look at the 56 1.2. Hopefully this will help some of you out there. Is it a good vacation lens? Will it work for you? What's its main strength? Is it too bulky to carry around? Even though look how small this little kit is right here. A couple of things to consider depending on your trip. It's not weather sealed, neither is the Fuji X-T20. Also, the type of vacation you take may determine if this lens is okay for you. If, let's say, you're going to India or China or somewhere where it's culturally vibrant, just this lens would be great to get some beautiful photographs of like markets and people in markets. Now, I took it to the middle of the desert. I brought it as a pseudo zoom landscape lens, so I wasn't really sure if it was gonna work, but I'll show you what I was thinking as I took photographs and my thought process, and hopefully this will help you if you're taking a trip with it. Okay, so the main strength of the lens is flat out what we've always said. It's a great people lens, portrait lens, and it's fantastic at rendering the background bokeh. Now, I wanted to shoot this at 1.8 because I wanted to see what it would do to the background bokeh over here of the trees. But I notice if I shoot at 1.8, I do get compression, but as far as kind of like overall sharpness goes, I get a little bit of haziness going on. Not great for this kind of photograph. You're gonna see that it excels at other stuff, but I think this kind of trying to compress a background that's very large, didn't really work for that idea, okay? Now, if you want to isolate your subject, like I did here with my son, I mean, it's fantastic. The bokeh in the background is great. And same thing with my daughter. Everything looks nice and sharp. Her shirt, great, but the background is nice and beautiful and soft. So this is the main strength of the lens, is isolating your subject from the background. And if you're, photographing your family or your kids, like the pictures look fantastic. Now here I was using the 56 1.2 to shoot between the trees. I was trying to frame my daughter here as she was climbing this tree. And one thing to note when you're shooting at 1.2 is that you gotta be careful because you have to nail your focus if you're close to your subject. If you're further away from your subject like I was before, you can pretty much focus a third into the scene or just center focus and you'll be okay. But as soon as you get close up to your subject, that depth, it starts to disappear. So I'll show you, this is the perfect example. And when you look at the back of the camera, you won't notice this. It's when you come back to your computer that you're like, oh, that's off. So here's what I mean. If you notice where she's grabbing on here to the this tree, it's totally sharp, totally in focus, but her face, her awesome monkey face here, is out of focus because the camera focused a little bit behind her, probably on her shirt. I probably center focused. And this brings us to an awesome point. It's great to review your photographs. That's how we learn. I'm always critiquing my stuff. I hate a lot of my stuff. We just want to become better photographers, and this is one way to do it. You got to kind of see what mistakes you made, and I make a lot of them. Okay, so next up, I had her nice and sharp. This time I was sure to focus on her eyes, and so she looks super sharp, and again, using the tree to frame her here. Fun picture here. This gate behind her, you notice how nice, this is at 1.8, how blurry it goes in the background, and that's what you get. You get that quality from this lens. Good compression, and just really, really nice portraits. Here's another great portrait of the kids. The canyon is on the other side, and so it's blurry. If you shot this with a phone or with a lens at f8 or anything, you're gonna sort of get everything in focus, but this is really nice to separate your subject from the background. My daughter being a goofball, pretending she has no legs or she's sinking into the rock. And again, so now the lens is like made to be shot at 1.2. I mean, it's like where it pretty much lives all the time. But since I was shooting landscapes, and again, it was my pseudo zoom lens for this trip, I started shooting it at f8, f11, this one's at f9, and man, the detail you can see in the rock, everything's nice and sharp here. You can kind of see all the little details and all the little bushes and leaves. So I was really impressed with that. Once you hit f9, like everything's like tacked, all the little trees up there. So I thought that was really nice to see. So I saw this little lizard here, and he was just a little too far. So I started out at 2.8, You see I'm at 2,000th of a second because it's super bright out here. Right now I'm just trying to get close to the lizard before I get my settings in. 3.2, we got him nice and sharp here. There's some cool lichens over here. So what I ended up doing here was, this is about as close as I could get, and I finally got to f8. Now notice the background is still blurry, so if you have distance from your subject, you're still gonna get nice blurry backgrounds, although not as creamy, of course, if you're at 3.2, but it's still not close enough. This is the closest I could get to the lizard with the lens. Any closer and it wasn't able to hit that minimum focus distance. So this is the same image cropped, and that's my picture. So you get enough detail that you can crop in. I don't think I would crop in maybe like, let's see if we can get up on his head here. It starts to look too, you know, artifacty, but you can get away with cropping a little bit. And that's a benefit of a full frame camera. If I had my Canon and the same kind of lens, like an 85, you can get away with cropping in a little bit more. So that's a little sacrifice you make with the smaller sensors. Then I got a little artsy. I found another lizard and I started to get a little better at this. So I wanted to go halfway instead of the the f2 or the f8. This time I went 4.5. And you can kind of see the scenery, but this guy is totally, you know, chilling on the rock. And then I just tried different compositions, keeping him on a third, but still this painterly background is great. This one I chopped his tail off, so that's an error. Again, go over your photos. I looked at it and he's way to the right there. This picture would have been better if he was more on a third. And so this is one I ended up with as well. Again, let's see what it looks like out of camera. I wanted to protect some of the sky. This is editing a JPEG, by the way. I find that editing the JPEGs works well enough in Lightroom. When you bring in a RAW, sometimes it's just a little too raw, if you know what I mean. It's just like too much work. But here I brought up the shadows, brought up the vibrance a bit, made the blacks a little punchy, as you can see over here. Played with the curve a little bit just to bring out some of the, but just a little tweak, a couple of tweaks like that, and I like it. Again, little pseudo zoom lens. But I was surprised by all the nice little, not surprised because I know this lens is really good, but you can see a lot of great detail on the fur, on this little, what is this thing? This little rabbit. Great kid portrait. The kids, I torture them. I just basically, I'm always taking pictures of them. This is not an attractive photograph from my daughter by any means. She was freezing, she's wearing my jacket, but I just wanted to show it to you so you could see what 1.2, I'm on the other side of the bridge. I put him on the middle. And again, this works because the bridge has leaning lines here on either side and it sort of frames them in the middle. Then what I started to do was try to look for more details in kind of the landscape. The first thing that hit me were these cacti, and I wanted to try it at 1.2 to see if the background was kind of, would go more painterly. But now I started to use the 56 1.2, move away from portraits. What can it do on vacation in a landscape? And so I started thinking of like prints, making prints or art, okay, as best as I could. This is what it looks like right out of RAW. So, you know, very flat profile. And by the way, Lightroom is notoriously not the best for Fuji RAW files. There are other options maybe we can explore in another video, but I use Lightroom for everything, so we're just gonna go with it. Here I did a vertical, which worked okay, but these photographs, there's just way too many distractions in there. You know, you kind of need a little simpler. For landscape, you know, I love seeing what the Rokinon 12mm can do, which is like see the entire landscape, and I definitely took those photographs. But it was nice to put on the 56 and kind of just try to frame a landscape shot as 85, and it compresses everything. You know, things look a little closer to the screen. And then if you want to get all Ansel Adamsy, this is a good example of all the little different zones of grays that you can have in landscape. Okay, so the next thing I tried to do was make more abstract art. There's a great photographer, Art Wolf, and he is a fantastic landscape wildlife photographer. I'll link him up below, but I took a creative live course with him. I'll link the course below as well. I found it amazing how he can find photographs in, you know, looking for photographs in a scene that is either too complicated or is ugly. And so I started to think like Art Wolf with the 56 1.2. What can I isolate in the landscape that maybe would make a pretty picture, or I'll show you my failures and then where I think I got kind of close to what I was thinking. So here I wanted to use these little branches kind of like as little brushes and have the background be kind of as like a canvas of some kind. By the way, look at this chromatic aberration craziness if you shoot at 1.2. Look at that. Now you can fix that over here. You have lens corrections. You see all that right here. It's called defringe. I actually have a preset for it, but if you go up with it, you can kind of remove it. So this is a complete failure. So this is me trying to paint with the landscape. Fail. This is a little better. I was trying to use like the tree and shadow and sort of just get the colors in the background. So I was kind of happy with this, but you can see where I'm going. Instead of just taking a grand wide picture, I'm trying to zoom in. I'm still not there yet, still not there. This is another fail. I think here I wanted to show scale with this like little, you can see a hiker there. Again, this is one of those things that looks better in real life than in photograph. And then later I tried to post-process it as a black and white, and it's just a complete failure. This does not work at all. This is pretty, but I see a lot of us take pictures like this. There are elements that we like, that we see because we're visual people. And we take a picture and the photograph doesn't really work. These little leaves in real life were beautiful and there was brown in the background. I just really couldn't make a photograph with it. And of course the family's hiking along and I only have 30 seconds to make the photograph. So that's one thing to think about. Are you making a compelling photograph with a subject and shapes and all that stuff, you're trying to do on vacation while trying to enjoy yourself? Here's a little stream we came up to. Again, this is just a standard shot of freezing the water. You could see I shot it at 2,000th of a second. I was trying to shoot at 1.4 to see what the lens again would do with the background, and I like what it did. It really made the rocks on the other side just kind of melt away, and the water's really, really sharp. Instead, I put the camera on the little like Joby tripod thing, and I decided to get more of like a painterly look. And then in post-processing, I took the raw and played around with the colors a lot more. So this is kind of where, I was thinking taking landscapes and taking things that aren't there and actually starting to make art. And it's really, really hard to be good at this. So again, I'm learning. I hope you guys are getting something from this too, but seeing little pieces of landscapes and things that may help you out. So this is actually what I got out of camera, or the JPEG. This is the JPEG I got out of camera with the slow, I was at 1/8 of a second. And by the way, I didn't have an ND filter, so I went f16, and that's the slowest I could go. Those of you that know about ND filters and all that stuff. So I'm happy with this. I think this, if you look over here, you can see that these look like just brush strokes, crazy little Monet, mayonnaise. Now this was where I started to really play around. This one I like a lot. I'll show you what it looked like at a camera, dull brown. I kind of played around with the white balance. So you can skew the universe a little bit, and by going a little cooler, the rock started to show this purple that started to come up. And I thought that was really cool. So these became kind of my favorite sort of painterly little leaves, little dabs of color and the color in the background. And I like that. It was like, that was kind of cool. I got very excited about that. Same with here. This showed there was like a little bit of blue water it was actually just water, but the sky was reflecting blue on there. And so orange and blue are like complementary colors. So I got very excited about trying to get a picture here. I don't know how great it is, but I know that I accomplished what I wanted with the two colors. And I think it's nice. I don't think it would make a great print, but I was kind of happy that I saw colors. I have low standards. Now this one was kind of my favorite. The sun was kind of peeking through, being blocked by a piece of rock or another mountain or something. So I got a little shaft of light over here. And then this tree that was growing its new leaves kind of became like a little brush stroke. Now this one I love. This one I would totally print because it makes me remember how I felt where I was there. So photographs are also personal on your vacation. You may walk into a dentist's office and see a Grand Canyon picture and it's like, yeah. But if you took it and you remember how you felt you were there, that's totally different. So that's what kind of this print would mean to me. Okay, moving on quickly, I found the lens most useful in, this is like a morning walk with the family, but there are these little nice, you see something nice. Look at there's a gas station over here, and you're like, those flowers are nice, but there's no picture there. So I got down on the ground, and with the 56 1.2, I got this picture, which I really like. I shot it at 2.0. I knew 1.2 would be just too ridiculous, and it did get about that many yay flowers in focus. So I was really happy that the 56 can take you out of the gas station, if you know what I mean. Here's another example of that. This is with the Rokinon 12mm. Here again, the car is what I wanted to get, and with the 56 1.2, just it's compresses the background, gives you nice layers, cool colors, brown and blue. Here we have another boring scene. I know this mountain, this kind of like rock in the background was great. So again, I used the 56 to use the flowers here to frame this little thing. This is not the best picture, but it's like the best I could do in the small amount of time we had. And then if you really want to cheat, you could just go into the tree and there's no bad picture in there. You just focus on one little piece of flowers and the background is all painterly. So this is really nice. Again, this is at 2.0 and really bright out. So I'm shooting at 3,000th of a second or more. This skull, you see the skull here on the bottom was on someone's property. And again, the picture's not here. The picture is here. So the 56 again lets you just tunnel vision on things. And that's where I found it very useful on a trip is tunnel vision. But again, you have to think, are you gonna kind of, if it's your only, you wake up in the morning and you go walk around with the 56, awesome. I was kind of overwhelmed because I had my wide Rokinon, which was taking much better photos, which we'll see in another video. So the 56 sometimes is dead weight. Like I was using it to find if it would work. I kind of lost my train of thought. But I think my thought was, it probably won't be your only travel lens that you wake up and walk around with. Unless that's your focus, like, hey, I'm gonna use the 56 to do a series on 56 stuff. I didn't find myself wanting to reach for this lens often, when we were in the Bryce Canyon or whatever, but it was fun for this kind of stuff. When we're walking around just doing nothing, looking for photographs, it was fun for that. Okay, so I love that. I'd print that. Then we went down this boring street, but the trees look really nice. So I kind of went on this side of the trees when the kids were playing with some rocks, and I got a really nice shot of them like interacting. And again, using the tree as a framing device. Behind them here, there's like a horrible construction, all horrible construction. This is the city of Kanab in Utah. And that stuff is just disappears. There's my lovely wife at 2.5. She was catching up. We finally had signal somewhere. And again, you get a sense of place. Like you can see where she is in the background. And then I just turned around from her to the tree here. And again, use these little branches here as like a framing device for the flowers. So I like that. 56, great for that. Great for that. And the obligatory kid photograph, love it, love it. Now, here's a picture with my kit lens, by the way, just to show you how the how the 56 worked in my gear. So the 18 to 55, we're gonna do a video on that guy too. I would pull out the 56 1.2 to isolate certain parts of the scene. I used the 56 here to isolate those rocks during sunrise, and I have just beautiful layers, and this puppy's crisp, yo. Super sharp, super crisp rocks, nice. And that is what I thought I would be sacrificing, leaving the Canon behind, but it did a really nice job. Let me go back a sec. Yeah, really pretty there. This is in a cave, just, isolating these little drops that were coming off of the rock on the top. Only the 56 1.2 could have taken this photograph, not my Rokinon, and the kit lens at f4, when you zoom it in, would have not been the same. So what do you think? 56 1.2 good for vacation, or just leave it for headshots and portraits and that's all it's good for? I found use out of it. However, I could leave it home. Like if I was in a nice new city and everything, I could leave it home and I probably would walk around with the 35 f2 or a 23mm to get more sense of place. But to make art and to zoom in and to do abstracts, I found it really fun on vacation. All right, guys, I'll see you next time on the next landscape video vacation lens review of the Fuji system technical information universe.